Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Finance for Teachers Network webinar. If you are not already familiar with the Finance for Teachers Network, I'll give you the brief oversight. The Finance for Teachers Network is a network organization for advisors who are specifically wanting to work with K through 12 and college educators. So that is the main clientele that they want to work with. So we're a group of advisors looking to make sure that everyone's doing the best job they can with these clients, but also with a very specific marketing objective. So getting materials into people's hands so they can do as good a job as they can of getting these people as clients and making them have the best experience they can. My name is Dave Grant. I am the founder of the network. I also run my own registered investment advisory firm focusing on educators as well. So I'm pretty much putting my money where my mouth is there. But today, as you can see by your screen, we have the team of 20 over 10 providing us some online presence material today. 20 over 10 is a website creation company that do tailored mobile responsive websites for financial advisors. A lot of their content is based on themes, so it gives you various looks, but at a very cost-effective price point. A lot of it, and as you'll see throughout the presentation, a lot of it's visually appealing and very functional at the same time. And again, putting my money where my mouth is, they are building out the consumer side of the Finance for Teachers Network site as we're going through this presentation. So I have a lot of faith in them, and again, put my money where my mouth is. So Ryan Russell, who's going to be leading us in the presentation today, is the founder, and I'll say co-founder, I'll give his other founder credit there, co-founder of the company, very expertly guiding the company in its mission, but also has a lot of talent on the design side as well. So I will stop talking, I'll put myself on mute, and Ryan, it's all yours.
All right, thank you very much, Dave. We really appreciate the opportunity to get to speak today. We've had the opportunity to work with Dave in a number of capacities to see Finance for Teachers, really come forward and come to fruition, and we've been unbelievably impressed with the group and excited for all the possibilities that you have. So to start today, ultimately what we're going to be discussing is designing for action, putting your online presence to work, meaning how do we create suitable mobile experiences, digital experiences that embody our brand and our message to translate some of those leads into credible prospects. So a little bit as Dave mentioned, who we are. 20 over 10 is a company, as Dave said, that tailors specifically to financial advisors, insurance agents, and compliance-regulated industries. Now, we operate on a platform that is created by myself and my co-founder, Nick DiMatteo. And what it allows us to do is create tailored mobile responsive websites that meet all of the specific requirements within this arena. So we have to take a lot of things into consideration, specifically compliance. So our websites allow people to archive all of their information as it gets pushed live. In the event of a compliance audit, all of those records are there. But additionally, one of the goals behind 20 over 10 is to give power back to the advisor, that you'll be able to log in and, using our intuitive service, be able to make updates to your website. Now, we create tailored mobile responsive websites, and tailored really means that we use what's called themes, basic frameworks, although we tailor them to meet your specific brand. Mobile responsive simply means that we are built for all devices all the time, and we'll get into a little bit more about that. Now, I have a particular affinity to this group because of my own personal background. I'm actually an associate professor of design at Penn State University. So as an educator, I can fully understand and appreciate the need for what you all are doing. My background in design and what's called user experience, how people interact with different technologies and design, really is what became the basis for what 20 over 10 became and is becoming now. We believe that accessibility and strong design should be at the core of your business, and it's very important to us that your brand's reputation and all the opportunities for your clients are represented well. I always like to tell people that the idea here is not only to get people to visit you online, but more importantly, to take that next step. That call to action is going to be very important. It's something that we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about now. So design for action, putting your online presence to work. Now, we're a group who deals with educators. Some of us may have some experience as educators. So I think to start, I'm going to give you a homework assignment, and I think it's an assignment that's very, very telling, but also very, very difficult, and maybe something that we haven't all been able to do yet. So what I'd like you to do is this. Take a stranger. It can be any stranger. It just has to be somebody who doesn't know you or doesn't have any vested interest in your business, in your website, in your well-being. Take that stranger and pull up your website. That particular subject has 5 seconds to learn who you are, what you do, and have an idea about how to contact you. And be honest with yourself. I think one of the reasons that we say pull a stranger is we don't want parents, we don't want children, we don't want relatives or friends, because quite frankly, the feedback isn't as honest as it could be. They have 5 seconds to learn those 3 things. Can they do it? So pull up that website, count to 5, and on 5, close your laptop or flip off your screen and ask them who you are, what you do, and if they have an idea about how to contact you. Now, why 5 seconds? I think this is really important because we think about the nature of the internet and all of the opportunities that it's giving to us, but what we also have to really consider is how people are interacting with these new medias. We always tell people that attention spans, as it applies to online reading, are very, very short. When people come to me and ask, well, Ryan, since you do research as a professor in how people interact with these technologies, how do people read online? People read online simply because, well, that's the wrong verb. They don't read. They scan, and they do it very, very quickly. So 5 seconds is roughly the amount of time you have to grab someone's attention to allow them to try and dig further into your website. And we need to make sure that we give them that primary, that important information up front. So there's a couple items that I want to cover today about how to make yourself stand out from the crowd rather than falling into it. How can we promote that value proposition to potential and current clients in a way that's going to be a memorable and productive experience for both parties? So we're going to go through these 4 steps. And the first is establishing a unique voice. The second is discussing what mobile responsive design is and why it's so important today. The third is the importance of establishing a clear call to action. And of course, the last is what we need to do when we're considering search engine optimization and what that means for creating original content. So let's start on the first item, establishing your authentic voice. I always like to ask people to think back in a time when they were just starting out and they were potentially going to a job interview, or that perhaps they needed to go and give a presentation. What did you wear? Did you spend time thinking about how you dressed, how you spoke, how you did your hair, what shoes you wore? Did you select that professional looking briefcase or pen? Did you wear a suit and tie? Did you plan out what you would say, or did you work on PowerPoint slides? I think the answer to all of these is that there was much consideration given to those in-person conversations that you had the first time meeting a potential employee or boss. The same needs to be true when we think about the voice that we apply to our website. And the reason is really very simple. Something I like to tell people too is that remember that the first time you have a conversation with a potential client, it's really going to be the second, possibly even third conversation that they've already had with you. Think about buying a new car. I highly doubt anyone's purchased a new car without doing a significant amount of research on that vehicle. What did the reviews say? What did all of the blogs say about how it drove and gas mileage? They did their due diligence, and the same is going to be true for people as they choose to invest with you all. So the way you present yourself in your business in written communications and visual communications is going to be equally as important as how we start to prepare those in-person meetings. Now, the idea here is to be authentic and talk a little bit about what that means, because authentic businesses inspire and prosper. And it's a bold statement, but there's one that we really can't argue with. Those that give us the opportunity to connect on a deeper, more personal level are ones that create relationships that last a long time. There are a lot of ways to establish and to help you establish and create that authentic voice, but let's just talk about 4 of them now. First, make sure that you know and accept yourself. The first step, okay, is to really sit down and take a look at who you are and what you do. And I think it's okay at this point to be highly critical. Are you naturally formal? Are you more colloquial? Are you more informal? Are you more comfortable sharing stories, or do you just relay information? Is there a way that we can inject that personality into your writing and still be professional? Are you more of a heartfelt writer, or do you prefer humor? A lot of the clients that we work with now come to us, and what's astounding is many of them already have existing online identities that we're helping them sort of recreate and rebrand. And in a lot of cases, we find that these clients have wonderful personalities, wonderful rich histories, backgrounds, and even the way they communicate is very unique. But none of that is visible on the website itself. They write in third person, rather talking about I, when they're an individual who's managing people's money. I think the sort of honesty that you can have with yourself is going to be great to create a consistent message across all mediums. The idea here is that they should be able to visit your website and then come talk to you and see a seamless, have a seamless experience of what that conversation's going to be like. The second is a little bit more critical toward financial advisors in general, but something that I feel compelled to always bring up. Make sure you're clear and direct, but stop trying to sound too smart. A dangerous thing happens when I go to conferences and I speak. I walk around and I overhear a lot of advisors talking to one another about these practices, about their websites, even about their marketing materials. And something that I see happen a lot is that other financial advisors complement each other based on the highly technical language that they use within these materials. Now, keep in mind that when it comes to your website or any marketing materials, you are actually the second most important person that we need to consider in all this. The first, of course, being the people that are interacting with it. So understand that the language that you're using is going to give context. Be sure not to use language that is going to be intimidating or overbearing. If you yourself can't stand to read what you are writing, then something is definitely wrong, okay? If you're trying too hard, the message gets diluted. Eliminate the superfluous language. Stop trying to sound smart and so technical. Help communicate your ideas, your objectives, your services and abilities in a way that the layperson who doesn't speak that vernacular can easily understand. Because a reader can tell if you're trying too hard. The third is be honest. Vulnerability and emotions go a long way. Your audience will certainly connect with honesty. If you're always putting forward a facade, you will fail to engage people. Your falsity will create a barrier between you and your readers. If you want to connect, there must be honesty. You must communicate authentically. You cannot be afraid to show vulnerability and share the truth. An example of this is I just had a wonderful conversation with a new client who came on board, and he's brand new. And he had a very poignant question that we actually get asked a lot. He said, Ryan, I'm one person, and I'm trying to decide whether or not I am going to, on my website, establish and make it look like we're a much larger organization than just me. And I said to this gentleman, I said, now what happens when you keep saying we throughout the website, and they ask, oh, who else is on your team? It's broken trust when somebody says, oh, there is no we, it's just I. And I think there's a certain vulnerability there that people can connect with to say, hey, you know, even if you're new, we're on this journey together, you're going to help. You know, being new doesn't necessarily mean, not being capable. To aid that, the idea of making sure that you apply, details about all of your affiliations are very, very helpful. This gives the perception, even if they don't understand necessarily what all of these individual affiliations truly mean, it gives the perception that there is a community around you helping you out, that you are continuing your education, that you are knowledgeable in this area. Vulnerability is a must, and I think honesty is key. Be honest with yourself when you're writing this. You shouldn't be promoting services that you yourself, aren't completely adept at doing. But more importantly, about what your objectives are. And lastly, try to create a community with your words. The idea here is that there's a big difference as we prepare content for websites between speaking with someone and speaking at someone. Your words should help connect and establish a community of the people who are reading it. You're not selling. Stop focusing on the products and start focusing more on the relationships. You're sharing, you're engaging. You're letting your readers take a journey with you. So don't write at your audience, write to your audience. It's not a monologue, it's a dialogue. Your goal is always to connect in a way that creates community. You want your audience, whether this includes employees or your customers, to root for your success. There's a big difference, and I've spoken to a lot of financial advisors that we work with about this, to create an experience for them where you, the advisor, are not working for them, you're working with them. You want your audience to have a vested interest in what you say and ultimately what you do. Let's switch gears a little bit and think about some of the new considerations that we have to make in terms of technology. So let's talk a little bit about mobile responsive design and accessibility. At the very beginning of this conversation, Dave pointed out what we do is we create tailored mobile responsive websites for financial advisors. Now, we went over a little bit about what tailored means. Tailored means that these are not template-based designs. They are simply frameworks that allow us to build your brand on top of them to create something new and seamless. Mobile responsive design is a term that means that the website responds automatically to the user's screen size, device, and orientation without the need for managing separate websites or worrying about things like legibility. Now, why is this important? It's important for a number of reasons. Right now, more people are engaging with you via mobile devices, and keep in mind that this just doesn't apply to phones, this is also tablets as well, as they do through desktops. But imagine now that as time goes on, okay, the capabilities of technology double roughly every 18 months. So every 18 months, we're seeing the capabilities of technology double. So we're seeing new pieces of hardware hit the market at a rapid pace. We need to make sure that we're prepared for those advances in technology and that we don't have to constantly be going back and revisiting our website to make changes to meet those new needs. Certainly as an advisor, your job isn't to manage, your website full time. It'll be to work with your clients. Responsive websites automatically resize and reorganize to a user screen size. And we'll actually look at that here with a few examples in a couple minutes. What that does is that as new pieces of hardware hit the market, say the iPad Pro, say in September Apple comes out with the iTable, your website will be built specifically for that screen size and will be able to respond accordingly. You won't have to worry about changing, 4 different style sheets or 4 different website versions. Instead, you can just do one. It'll apply to all media. Okay, Ryan, well, why is this so important? So people will engage with us on mobile, and they want to have a great experience. What else? Well, on April 21st of last year, there was something that happened called Mobilegeddon. Now, I know that sparks images of people, running through the streets with their phones on fire, but it's not quite that dramatic, but still something that we need to pay close attention to. Google came out and dictated that as of April 21st, 2015, websites that were not mobile friendly will start to fall in search engine rankings when people search for terms that may apply to those sites on mobile devices. So if I'm searching for, John Smith Advisory Group via Google, or, even, a CPA or an RIA in, say, Tulsa, and I'm doing that from my mobile phone, and you are somebody who fits that criteria but doesn't have a mobile-friendly website, you're not going to show up in those search results. So this will become more and more prevalent over time, and the results will get lower and lower and lower. People always ask, well, how do I know if my site is truly Google friendly? Well, there's actually a website built for you that Google, of course, has made prominent, and it's Google's mobile friendly test. And you can see here, if you want to pause the presentation, you can see the URL, or simply Google mobile friendly test, and of course Google will make their own the first. You can enter your page URL in here to see whether or not your site fits those standards. It's a wonderful test because not only will it say yes or no, but it'll also give you input about specifically what is wrong. Now, a lot of people, especially in older demographics, so people who are in their late 40s, their 50s, their 60s, sometimes underestimate the amount that individuals are now using their mobile devices. So it's certainly not an opinion. Everything that we do at 20 over 10 is really backed by the science behind design, not just about making things look pretty. Everything that we do is built mobile first. And here are the numbers that we rely on to make sure that we understand that what we're doing is right. Right now, 60% of internet access is mostly happening on mobile devices. In fact, my feeling is that right now, you've already checked your phone once, twice, maybe 3 times during this presentation. Of all the adults in the US, 90% currently have a cell phone, and 58% have a smartphone and do a significant amount of internet searching on those devices. 58%, that's more than half. 32% of adults in the U.S. own some sort of tablet or e-reader. An e-reader, and 42% of adults in the U.S. own a tablet computer. This particular statistic is interesting because we've had clients who come to us and say, I understand that mobile's important, but my target demographic or my current clientele are in their 60s and above. They're retired individuals, so they really don't use smartphones. Well, you'll be surprised because a lot of them use tablets, and the mobile experience that they have on a tablet still needs to apply. Here's some really scary numbers about how mobile technology is currently changing human behavior. The number of times smartphone users check their devices per day is 150. I can tell you personally that mine's more than double this. 67% of cell phone owners check their phones for message, alerts, or calls, even when their phone's not ringing, not beeping, and not vibrating. There's an interesting phenomenon that goes on that if you're somebody who carries your phone on you a lot, you can get phantom buzzes too. That you'll feel like your phone's buzzing, you'll look at it and it won't. It's a learned behavior, and it's a direct result of the mobile technology that you use. In fact, 44% of cell phone owners admitted to sleeping with their phone by their bed because they did not want to miss any calls, text messages, or social media updates while they were sleeping. I think if most of us had this conversation, we could admit to ourselves that we probably, go through our phones before we go to bed or immediately upon waking up. I don't even own an alarm clock. I keep my phone next to my bed, and that's what I use. So what does it mean for browsing habits now, and what that means, and how mobile technology is redefining that? So 34% of smartphone users go online mostly using their phones. They don't use a desktop. They're not using a laptop or other device. In 2015, we saw an increase of people using a desktop computer to search online from 1.4 billion to 1.6 billion. And in the same time period last year, we saw the amount of people searching online using a smartphone go from 800 million to 1.9 billion users. For the first time in history, smartphone usage and searching has now surpassed desktop. Okay, mobile's now surpassed desktop. So we switch gears. Okay, so when we take these kinds of things into consideration, things like mobile responsiveness and SEO, we really need to start to consider very, very clearly what is the next step. Some people are so surprised that they got people to their website that they forgot to think about what do you want them to do next. This is called your call to action, and it should be visible, okay? We call them CTAs. You can have various CTAs on your website. I think it's quite normal, and I think it's quite effective. These call to actions should be very, very short. They should be verb. They should be easy to find on your website and be hierarchically very, very important. These primary call to actions can be something very simple, something such as contact us today or schedule a meeting. Secondary or tertiary call to actions can also exist. Connect with us on social media, access your account. And if we look at a couple example sites, we have a few, and these are all of our clients as well, that you can see that do this quite well. And it really is going to be about what your objectives and goals are. Now, one of the things that you can do is you can utilize third-party services. You want people to get started today with a free guide. You want to gather their information and be able to utilize it for your own campaigns to be able to connect with these individuals. Some of it might be, booking a meeting. A lot of third-party integrations that we work with to allow people to directly connect with you and establish a time to chat. These can be things very simply like join us for a virtual meeting where they can connect with you online. My Guardian Wealth is one of our clients and a phenomenally talented group that deals with clients not just locked to their local geographic location. So they have virtual meeting capabilities built in. They also have a secondary call to action, connect with us, so that current members or potential members can access their client portal and schedule additional meetings. We have a lot of this functionality, and we preach this very, very much. One of the things that we do a lot is focus very heavily on what is that call to action and what is it for you. A lot of people, it's simply we want them to get in contact with us. For others, it's gathering lead information. So sign up for this newsletter and we'll mail it to you, and now you have their email. Filling out forms. It could be scheduling a meeting. We see that a lot as well. Now, as we move towards, thinking about SEO and getting found, Google's new algorithm for mobile search results that we talked about briefly before went into effect April 21st. But SEO strategies are always rapidly changing. It's very, very hard as a designer or a developer to be able to sit down and try to manipulate the system for higher results. And the best SEO that I can tell people is solid, original content. This is something that anyone should be able to do in a minimum amount of time. So let's make sure the content on your 3 most important pages include the 3 W's: who you are, what you do, and where you're doing it. This takes us back to our 5-second test. We want to make sure that these 3 W's are answered in a place that's very easy to find, that we can see, and it's called above the fold, meaning we don't have to scroll or we don't have to dig too deep in the website to find it. Don't make us work too much to get this information. Search engines rank websites in part based on the content on each page, so you need to ensure that your site is relevant to those terms. For example, if you want your site to rank well for, say, search Financial Planner Chicago, then your site has to show that your website is a relevant resource for financial planning services in Chicago. An example of the language that you could use is this. John Smith founded Midwest Financial Planning in 2002 and specializes in providing financial planning, wealth management, and estate planning to physicians in the Chicagoland area. This gives Google a better idea of the content on that page. Location, services, who you are. So these are relevant search terms that people are going to be looking for that directly appear on those pages, and Google will then reward you and display those high up on the list. So we really want to think about the content that we write, to do it in a way that's honest and truthful, but also detailed enough to get a sense of those 3 W's. You also want to make sure that, whether you are rewriting content for your pages or your website, whether you're writing a blog post, or even if you're writing for a newsletter or someone else's blog, you should write as if you are having a conversation with your customers. This will ensure that your unique voice and personality shines through. And without realizing, your site will possess a quality that so many others lack. We talked a lot about authenticity. This content creation and its benefits are really great. An example is Cambridge Financial Group. They explicitly state not only what they are, but what they are not. To show you, I have their website pulled up. And this is a very bold but a very smart strategy to employ. Think about this for a moment. If I could tell you that your website could get 100 views or 50 views, which would you take? Well, your answer should be, I don't know yet, because you want not just the question of quantity, but you want the question of quality as well. What if you got 100 views and only 3 of those were quality leads? Or you could get 50 views where 30 to 40 of those were quality leads. Identifying things like this, specifically who you are and what you are not, will help identify those who may not be ideally suited to work with you, and let them sort of taper off themselves. That way you're not wasting valuable time dealing with individuals who realistically will not become long-term engaged clients. If you write as you talk, you are more likely to naturally improve your SEO by including the very phrases that your target audience might be searching. So as you're writing this, I always implore people to write with a partner. Go through and have a conversation with someone else as you are discussing what your services are, to make sure that they can understand, to make sure that the language that you're using is both approachable but also specific. When you create that structure for your website, a straightforward, easy to navigate site will create the best user experience. And as we know, the more appealing a site is to the users, the more appealing it's going to be to search engines too. The better your site structure, the easier it is for you that you make it for web crawlers to access and index content. Web crawlers are what search engines send out to grab what's on your website and bring it back and report to them. Now, here's some factors that a lot of people don't know that actually affect search engine rankings. Okay, so in addition to country and keywords, the following factors will also affect search rankings. Okay, relevant content. We talked a lot about this. Appropriate topics, images, and videos too, as well as keywords that reference similar terms. Your site architecture. You want to make sure that pages have short loading times, well-maintained meta titles and descriptions, up-to-date content, and a strong amount of internal links. Backlinks. Successful domains feature a greater share of links anchored on their domain and or brand name. Social signals. Strong performing sites often have lots of likes, tweets, and social specific content. Now, there are limitations, obviously, as a financial advisor on what we can do on social media, such as endorsements. However, connecting to social media on your web pages, to your business pages, is a tremendous idea. This way, as you create new content, new blog posts, you can then post them to these social media channels to better send out and disseminate this information to drive people back to your website. And of course, search engines will look at the user behavior. What's the click-through rate? How much time is being spent on your site? And what are the bounce rates? Before developing your website, it's always really very, very important for you to plan out your site map. Your site structure should be planned out based on your services and content, and you should make it easier for visitors to find what they are looking for. This goes back to a point that I was pointing out a little bit earlier on how people read the web. And people always ask, well, is that your opinion? Absolutely not. This is based in research. What you're seeing here is actually an eye tracking map, and it shows how people scan various websites. And what you can see from this is the majority of time is spent at the top of the page, obviously, because they don't have to scroll to get to important information. So that tells us that we want to keep that important information up top above the fold so that people don't have to scroll to it. What we also can see is that people truly don't read every word. They scan. They stop on words and phrases that stand out, that directly relate to their needs or their interests. So we want to make sure that the content's written in a way that's easily scannable. The days of having just paragraphs and paragraphs of text on your website is over, and it's not necessarily a great idea to do so. Break that up. Allow people to be able to search that content in a way that they can find very easily answers to the questions that they might have. And don't overthink or overcomplicate your structure. Each main category should be unique, and each subcategory should somehow relate to the main category under which it is located. This is something called nesting. You realistically shouldn't have more than 8 main pages on your website, but you can have sub-pages below those main pages to help organize sub-content that is directly related to whatever that main page is about. For example, you could have a page for our services and have several sub-pages dedicated to what those specific services entail. Your page titles should very simply communicate what the page content is about. For instance, let's say you have a page that takes people to a series of subpages offering more information, such as FAQs. You can simply call the main page More Information. Don't overcomplicate, but also don't oversimplify. Make sure you're being specific enough that people know that they can search around and what the information is that they will get on that respective page. I mentioned don't have more than 8 pages. Don't make people work too hard to get to the information that they want. We want the best experience for our site's visitors, and having too many initial options for visitors to choose from is overwhelming, and quite frankly, it appears much less organized. And probably, arguably, the most important is don't bury the important information that you use. Just as you shouldn't have too many options on your homepage, you also don't want to bury any information or content that you know users will want to quickly access. For financial advisors and insurance agencies, this would be your contact information, your client login, get a quote, bio and about pages. Make sure they're up front. Maybe they're not buried too deep. And the idea is to get people to engage. One of the things that we do at 20over10 is, we want people to create really unique experiences for their websites. If you have a chance, go to 20over10.com. If you're thinking about redoing your website, you can take a look at what our services and pricing offers. And certainly, we let our work stand for itself. As Dave said, we're extremely excited about the sort of design that we do and how customized a lot of this can become. So take a look on our examples page directly from our homepage, and you can see not only the themes that we use, but live client examples as well. Like Dave had mentioned, we like to put our money where our mouth is, so we like to show clients. And certainly, if you want more information about marketing yourself online, you can visit our blog, and we're always pushing out great content through our outreach section that will talk a lot about social media, creating content for the website, evaluating Google Analytics, and the like. Now, I understand that if there's something that you need clarity on or just have a general question, please don't ever hesitate to contact us. We love having conversations with you all. You can email us at hello@20over10.com or reach us at the phone number listed, 216-509-9089. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to listen to me speak now, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you so much.